Hey, what's up? My name is Ashlyn, if you don't know me, and I have a broken spine that will never heal for the rest of my life. So, before we get into this story, because it's gonna be a long one, since you guys saw me last, I have gotten this little fun dude that I'm really excited about. That's just kind of a little tangent. So, before we get into everything, just make sure that, like, right now, if you need to, just like click off this video really quick, press that little subscribe button, give me a big thumbs up if you enjoy this video, and then don't forget the little bell icon so you guys can get notified every time I post a video, and trust me, you're going to want to. So, today I am going to be telling you guys the story of how I ended up with a herniated and degenerating disc in my spine, in my L5-S1 vertebrae, and ended up with a pars fracture, which is the part of the story that's where my broken spine is, because a fracture is where the bone is broken. And so it's not clickbait, I promise. It is actually broken. So I also have what's called spondylolisthesis. I'll put that right here in case you guys want to know how to spell it. That is where I'm gonna show like a little graphic right here. So it's where your vertebrae, I think it's okay. So I'm not a doctor, believe it or not, and this is just over the past year, like what I've collected from like doctor's appointments. And so if I am wrong about any of this, please comment down below if you would like to correct me, because this is my life and I want to know if I'm my information is incorrect. But the way I understand it is that because of the pars fracture, my vertebrae, like right at the base of my spine, my vertebrae don't have like a stable connection, and they don't have like a stable base to sit on, I guess. And so whenever I bend forward, my spine will go like this, like my vertebrae will slide back and forth and they kind of grind together. And that's usually if I'm bending forward, but also if I'm bending backwards. It just moves like ever so slightly, but it's enough that it can cause like a whole lot of damage. And the herniated disc, we're gonna jump right back into the herniated disc. April 7th was when this MRI was taken. So if you guys can see, I'm gonna put a circle around it. Then there's this little part of my disc that's like sticking out of the spine, and the disc is also turning black. And so when it turns black like that, that means it's like basically dying. Hey guys, it's Ashlyn from the future. So I figured out that I actually got some of my information wrong. So after I recorded this video, I went to go see the surgeon, and I found out that the disc that's turning black is actually my L4, L5 disc, and that one is just bulging, while the disc right below it is the one that's actually herniated, and that one is actually in better shape than the L4, L5, because the L4, L5 is the one that's clearly dying. So I just wanted to clarify that. Let's get back to the video. And that's why usually herniated discs will like heal themselves over a long amount of time. But I have had mine for 3 years or more, we're not sure, and it still hasn't healed. But as of like my last MRI, my disc is herniated, and I think they said that the one like above it is also bulging, but I'm not quite sure. And it's also degenerating. So that causes it to press against what's called my sciatic nerve, and my sciatic nerve goes like down the back of each of your legs. And when it presses on the sciatic nerve, it's called sciatica, and it basically feels like when you get a pinched nerve in your neck, and it really hurts. Then I have that almost constantly down the back of my leg, specifically in like where my hamstrings are on the back of my thigh. So it basically just like constantly feels like a pinched nerve in the back of my neck, or in the back of my leg. And that causes me to not be able to stand for more than like 10 minutes, which therefore causes me to never, well, not never, but currently I can't get a job because I can't stand for long enough. And then also for the spondy, that causes me to, so I used to be a competitive dancer, as I said in my last video, and as a competitive dancer, you're constantly going, like, you have practices, like, almost every single day. You're going to competitions in the springtime, like, tons and tons and tons of competitions, and I can't do any of that anymore because of this, spondy pain and because of the sciatica. And if I do continue to dance, then there is a chance that I will injure it even more, and then I will end up having to have either like a spinal fusion, where I don't know if you guys have heard of spinal fusions, but as a 16-year-old, you do not want to be getting a spinal fusion, because then like every 10 years you have to go back and you have to like basically get your spine refixed, because when you fuse the discs in your spine, then it causes like more pressure on the discs above and below that, and then those that can cause problems with those, and then you just have to like keep coming back, and it's just, it causes a lot of problems. But let's slow down. I've kind of like summarized the issue, but I'm gonna kind of go way back to February of 2019, because that was when this first like started. Like I first noticed some problems. Well, I guess that's not quite true, because so over the last 3 years, I have transferred to a new dance studio, and this is not supposed to be like any sort of shade to them. Their freaking studio was so great to me. Like, I'm not gonna say like what it's called, because I don't want y'all to know where I live. But over the past 3 years, I had joined a new studio, and they do what's called acro. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of this, but it's basically like, it's kind of like gymnastics, but gymnasts don't come for me if I'm wrong. It's like basically just a lot of like back walkovers, front walkovers, like stuff like that. So over these last 3 years, I had never done acro before, so I had no idea what I was doing. But I was in the team, the highest team at the studio, which were called seniors. And so I kind of like jumped into this acro thing at a very high level without knowing like what I was doing. And the studio was great. They tried like their very best to help me figure out stuff, but it's ultimately like up to me to take the initiative and to figure out what I was doing. And instead of doing that, like I should have, I instead kind of just said, okay, I'm gonna do my best, like let's try it. And I basically just like threw myself in there. And that was a very bad idea, because we're thinking that like throughout those 3 years, my sciatica, which is the pain down my leg, started getting worse and worse and worse. And it would get to the point where I had to like sit out of dance. I could hardly go to school because sitting in like the hard chairs would just wreck me. And I was like, Mom, I have to do something about this. Like it's like something is wrong. And so my mom had me start going to a chiropractor, because this was like, my mom has a whole bunch of like back issues, and she has sciatica, and so does my dad. And so they were like, okay, it's sciatica, like no big deal. We both have that, we both know how to deal with it. So my mom started having me go to a chiropractor. And this chiropractor, we didn't really know like what the problem was, so it was basically just like pain management. It was like, yeah, she just has like some sciatic pain, like, so he did like his best. We just kind of like worked with the information that we had, and then after like, I don't know, maybe after like a month of that, this was before February, so this was like maybe in 2018. After that, I started going to PT in probably end of 2018, beginning of 2019. I started going to physical therapy, and this was with a physical therapist that my mom had gone to and had like a lot of success with. And again, no shade to anybody in this video. This is all like just how I see it from my perspective. So this particular physical therapist, he thought that my sciatic pain was because my hips were out of alignment. And this very well could be the case. Like, it could be a problem with my hips or something like that. But in this particular case, that wasn't like what was causing my sciatic pain. Like, it is possible that my hips are out of alignment at some point, or like something like that. That wasn't what was causing this sciatic pain. And so he had thought that, like, I guess my hips were out of alignment, and so therefore it was causing pressure it was like putting pressure on my sciatic nerve, and therefore causing the sciatica. And so we were doing like physical therapy exercises for like a few weeks, and then I started Pilates, which is, if you don't know, it's kind of like, it's a very specific type of like workout, I guess. You might want to Google it because I'm not the best person to explain what Pilates is. Hey y'all, it's me again. But I forgot to mention that my physiatrist actually told me that the Pilates that I was doing, the extensions that I was doing, very well could have made my condition worse, because, like, I think it was my spondy, that the bending, like, backwards and forwards that she was having me do was damaging to my spine, and that's another reason why I wasn't super happy with this physical therapist. But, sorry for the little tangent, back to the video. So I started doing like Pilates and started doing physical therapy and stuff like that, and he then gave me a hip brace, like a belt brace thing. I might still have it. Here's a little belt thingy. I found it. It's called the Sorolla belt. And so you basically take this little belt thingy, and you like, geez, I haven't used this in so long. Oh yeah, okay, so you have this little strap, and you line it up with your booty, and then you're supposed to like do that, and then you pull this like that, and then you pull this like that. Okay, so I got that little belt thingy, and of course, right after I got it, he told me to wear it like every day, basically just all day long, and then take it off at night. And so right after I got it, I wore it for 3 days. And I remember very specifically that on February 14th, I got the belt on the 11th, I wore it the 12th, the 13th, and the 14th, and then on the 14th was the very first time that I ever felt like the spondy pain. When I say spondy, I'm talking about the spondylolisthesis. And that pain is like really generalized around my back, my lower back, and it's like hard to explain. It's basically just like an ache, and it hurts. It freaking hurts. It feels like you have like broken a bone, I think. And ever since on the February 14th, that is when I felt that pain for the first time. And so over the rest of that month and the next month, March, I had to skip and sit out of acro because that's what would hurt my back the most, is the acro, the flipping, the bending, stuff like that. But at this point I was still able to actually dance like in classes. As of April, on the 6th, okay, April was like an important month, so listen closely. So on the 6th of April, I had a local dance competition that was like, it was really chill, like easy, low-key, at our local performance center thingy. And on the 6th, I had performed. I didn't do like any of the workshops, or what they're called, like the classes, I guess. I didn't do any of the classes. I didn't do like they had like this little dance-off thingy. I didn't do any of that, but I did compete because, I mean, obviously, like, it doesn't matter how bad you're hurting. If you are in part of a routine and if you have like committed to performing for your teammates, you're not gonna like just up and say, sorry, you guys, good luck, like, can't do it. So I pushed through it, and I had to do we had 7 dances, and then I also had a solo, which I pulled because the solo was just like too much. And so we didn't end up doing the solo, but I did do 7 dances, and this is like, of all different styles, like hip hop, jazz, lyrical, like, and so, after that, I remember laying in like our dressing room, and everybody was with everybody around me trying to figure out like how to make me stop hurting so bad, because I was in so much pain I could hardly like walk. I genuinely could hardly walk. And so we're trying like TENS units, we're trying like massages, we're trying essential oils, we're trying biofreeze, like we're trying literally everything. And so that day I went home and like I remember crying, like I was bawling in my mom's car, and I was like, Mom, I'm in so much pain. And she's like, well, what do you want? And I remember her saying, well, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to drive you to the ER right now? Because that's what I'm ready to do. And I was like, no, it's like 10 o'clock at night. Let's go tomorrow. And my mom's like, okay, let's go to the ER tomorrow. And so I wake up the next day, I'm in still so much pain, not quite as much pain as the night before. And so we get in the car and I go to the ER. And I remember being in my mom's car, and we got out into the parking lot, and I remember her saying, Kay, do you want to do some jumping jacks or something to make sure that your back is really just nice and good and sore, so that these ER doctors don't look at us like we're insane for taking you to the ER, even though it's the night after when it actually hurt you. And so yeah, I was still in a lot of pain, so we go in there, we get checked in, I get like my fancy little hospital bracelet, I get a change into like the gown and stuff, and then we get to wait for like 3 hours and wait for the doctors to come. And this is what pissed me off to no end. And my mom too, like she can come vouch for this. ER doctors, honey, if your patient says that they're in pain and that they have tried everything, don't prescribe things that they've already tried. Okay? Thank you. Like, I would really, really appreciate if that would stop happening, because I go in there and I'm like, yeah, I have sciatic pain, like my back is killing me, I'm like dying. And I will never forget this. After 3 hours of waiting, this ER doctor, he goes, okay, well, here, let me show you some exercises you can do. Like, let's have you come up against this wall, and if you lay on the ground and if you stick your butt against the wall, you can do some exercises to help you. And my mom and I were sitting there looking at each other, and we were like, no, we want an MRI. Like, I don't want a little exercises. Like, I've been doing exercises for the last 3 years, hunty. Like, I do not want any more exercises. I want an MRI. I want to actually see what's going on. And he's like, well, I don't think we should get an MRI because it seems like a really drastic move right now. And so my mom and I were like, what? Like, I'm in the ER. It's pretty drastic, but okay. And I remember like sitting there for another 3 hours. The doctor ended up coming back and he was still like, no, you don't need an MRI, like blah, 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 blah. And I remember him saying that like, he asked me if I had any numbness, and I had a little bit of numbness on the my outer two left toes. And luckily he said that was what allowed us to get an MRI, because we had made it very clear that we had tried everything else, and that numbness was also like, it's apparently like a bad sign to have numbness in your feet or whatever. So according to him, the insurance would be okay with the MRI as long as I had numbness or had tried everything else. And so, hallelujah, he's like, fine, let's just get you an MRI to make you happy. That's what he said. He was like, if you guys really want an MRI, then we'll get you an MRI to make you happy. And my mom and I are like, bruh. I'm so glad that we got an MRI, because if we did not get an MRI, I don't even want to think about where I would be. Like, that MRI probably saved, like, my spine. Like, that saved my ability to live. Like, so I go back, and these guys basically just shove me in the MRI machine. They're basically like, okay, have fun, peace out, get in the little machine. And if you guys, I don't know if you guys have ever had an MRI, but they are the loudest. So I'm not like claustrophobic at all. I'm literally like the least claustrophobic person on the planet. But the thing that bothered me was how loud this machine was, because it's got like all the magnets and stuff, and it's like all that. It is so loud. You can't even like breathe. And I remember having to like run over my dances in my head because that was the only thing that kept me from like freaking out. And the other bad thing about MRIs is that you're not allowed to move at all. You're not allowed to like twitch, like you're not allowed to, you know, when you like fall asleep almost and you like jump, like you have like a falling dream or whatever and you like jerk, you're not allowed to do that. So you have to like just, and she was like, she told me that people sometimes take naps and stuff. Bruh, I don't know who can take a nap in a freaking MRI machine, because that is probably the, like, it's terrifying. No, it's not a fun experience. And so I didn't get like noise canceling headphones. I didn't get like earbuds. I didn't even get like those little foam earplug thingies to like maybe kind of cancel out some of the noise. Other than that, they shoved me in there. I stay in there for like what felt like 3 days. I don't actually know how long it was, but it felt like so long. So I'm in this MRI machine and then they finally take me out. I go back to the bed and that's like the, goodness, Samantha. That's like the last thing that I really remember. Yeah, other than that, let me just go home. Yeah, that's basically the end of my ER trip. But that's not the end of this whole story. That's not even close to the end. So then for the rest of that month, I had a dance competition. I think it was our first one, and it was in Seattle, so it was kind of far away. And I remember I had to sit out through like all of the classes. I still had to compete, and I was still in like so much pain afterward that I seriously was like bawling, and anybody on my dance team can attest for this. And then I also, throughout that whole month, I don't think I danced at all. I think my dance teacher was like, if you're bad enough to go to an ER, you're not gonna be dancing. So I just had to like watch, which sucked, but honestly it was for the best, I think. And then on the 30th was the day that I had my first appointment with what's called a physiatrist. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of that. I just had to look it up because I didn't know what it was for. But according to Google, it's basically like somebody who specializes in like rehabilitation for this specific like clinic almost. I know that they specialize in sports and spinal medicine. And so that was my first. I still go to her. She's awesome. She's like my regular doctor that I go to. And so that was my first appointment with her. Then throughout May, on the 6th, I got my first injection. And for those of you who don't like needles, you would not enjoy this whole situation that has been going on with this. Because I have probably been stabbed with more needles in the last year than ever in my life, like ×2, I think. So on the 6th, so exactly a month after the competition, where I had to almost go to the ER, I got my first epidural injection, and this was... Okay, my notes don't add up, hold on. I found where I messed up. Okay, rewinding back to April. So on the 8th, so the competition was on the 6th, the ER trip was on the 7th, and then this was on the 8th. So I got my first epidural injection. And this was, from what I understand, so again, I'm not a doctor, so I don't really know, but from what I understand, this was just a very like generalized injection. So they were kind of basically just sticking a needle in me and saying like, let's hope that maybe since this is so generalized, like it'll give you some relief from your pain. And so I got, so I went in there the next day, and this, like, I think he's a radiologist. So one of the radiologists at the hospital was the one who gave me the injection. And I remember my mom, because my mom has gotten a lot of these as well. She told me, oh no, it doesn't hurt that bad. No, it's okay. Like, you'll be fine. And so I'm walking in there, I'm like, no problem. Like, I'm fine. Like, this will be great. Yeah, that was a lie. Thanks for lying to me, Mom. And I remember, like, we had to do the First injection was like the numbing, like anesthetic, I think he called it. I don't really remember. It was just to numb the area so it didn't hurt as bad as it would have. And that one really hurt because it's like I was laying on my stomach. I think I was actually wearing this exact sweatshirt. I was laying on my stomach and he sticks this needle into my spine and basically just numbs the area. And that one hurt, but it like didn't hurt like super bad. And then this next one, I remember him having to put it in and then pull it back out for some reason, I don't remember why, and then put it back in. And so at this point I've been injected 3 times, just like stabbed 3 times. And so on the 3rd time, then that was the actual time where he started to like squish the thing. And I remember it feels like you are injecting lava into your spine. Like, it starts to burn and then it gets worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And then the bad part about it is that it burns not only in your back, but like because it's trying to get rid of the sciatic pain, it makes the sciatic pain so much worse. Like so much worse. And so it feels like somebody is injecting lava into your back and also down in the back of your leg. And it lasts about maybe 30 seconds, but dang, those 30 seconds freaking hurt. Like, it is not fun. It's not a party. And so after that was done, I lived. And then came the watching at the competition and then watching through dance and my first appointment with the psychiatrist, with the physiatrist. And then in May, on the 6th, was my 2nd epidural. So this was almost a month after my first epidural. But instead of being in the hospital, this epidural was in this actual like clinic place, and my physiatrist did it. And so she said that this one was kind of like the one that I got first, except it was more like specific. Like the place that it was going to affect was much more pinpointed, and so she was hoping that I would have more success with this one. And I was so nervous after my last one because the last one hurt me so bad that this is embarrassing, but they had to sedate me. What's called a 3-phase bone scan. It's a scary thought, being told like, oh yeah, you're gonna be in pain for the rest of your life. The last 15 years was all I get of my childhood, and like talking about like, oh, get away, you're gonna infect me with your scoliosis. I don't even have scoliosis. The threat of being paralyzed if I wake up from surgery and something's gone wrong. Like,